There are some things that I wish I would have known before I started weightlifting. Number one, I wish I would have taken recovery to be a very much more important role in my beginning weightlifting. I was at a point, or I've always been a person where it's all or nothing, right? And that helped me. That totally helped me, right? If you're that kind of person that you need to finish whatever you get started, that's great. However, you do have to remember that recovery, including sleep, rest, is super important, like super important, to the point where if you don't prioritize that, you will get hurt. So at the beginning, I was like all or nothing, no matter what. I would travel sometimes, take my own stuff. And the thing about this is traveling is very taxing on your body, including recovery, sleep, where you're sleeping, right? Sometimes you get the worst beds, you don't sleep at the right times, you're getting up earlier, you're tired. So your body is not optimized to your normal routine, right? Which is different than just not like being lazy, right? That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about true body, not like fatigue from traveling. And so a lot of times I would just grind through workouts to the point where I would get so many little injuries, right? So many little aches and pains in my joints, on my back. And I think if I would have gone back in time, I would have been a little nicer to my body. I would have been like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go on a trip. I'm going to enjoy it. I can go to the gym, to the hotel gym, walk a little bit, maybe lift a couple of dumbbells or some weight if there's available, but not really push my body the way that I usually push when you're home. Another thing that I did is I was in the beginning of my business, and this is not an excuse, because you gotta hustle. But a lot of times I would have to be at the club at 5 or 6 a.m. So that would mean that I would start my workout at like 4:30. If you're not going to bed early, that's going to be a huge tax, like a huge deterioration for your body over time. You could probably do it for a couple of days. Maybe if I would have done it maybe once or twice a week, that would have been fine. However, I was doing this day in, day out, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, every week for months. And I remember specifically one time I was weightlifting, hardcore deadlift, and my body was telling me, hey, you are overdoing it. And I think I like had a little injury on my ribs, and it's just stuff that happens when you haven't recovered properly. Another thing that I think I would have done differently would be not to exaggerate on how many calories I need to eat. I was in this impression that when I weightlifted, I could eat everything that moved and maybe even more to increase muscle building. And that's not true. You don't have to be eating 2, 3, 4,000 calories above your maintenance, right? So if you're normally, your weight doesn't really move, and you're about 2,000 calories, it's just a number, 2,000 calories, and you're like, hey, I want to build muscle, I need to eat 4,000. Well, you will, if you weight lift and you eat 4,000 calories, you're going to build muscle pretty fast, but you're also going to get fat pretty fast. So I should have done a little bit less of a calorie overage, or like excess. I could have just gone like 2,500, like 500 calories more. I could have done 750 calories more, and kind of and then when I started gaining too much body fat, I could have done a little weight loss maintenance kind of a deal. So that's something I would have definitely done. I gained so much body fat. Yes, I did get pretty strong pretty fast, right? But I did gain 30, 40, 50 pounds of body fat, like super fast. Another thing that I wish I would have known before I started weightlifting was the knowledge, or to know that it was going to take longer than I thought to get to certain weights. So I started, like, for example, I remembered starting squatting like 150, 145, right, for 3 sets of 5. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to get to 300 like quick. And no, that didn't happen. It took me, I don't know how many years to get to 405. And then another thing that I wish I would have known is At the beginning, sometimes your body kind of like has to get all of your joints stronger, your ligaments, before your muscle even catches up. So at the beginning, I didn't really look like I even lifted. I still think that I don't even look like I lift, even though my wife's like, yeah, you're like, you have muscles. But it's not like what we think. I wish I would be a little bit more lenient on myself. I wish I would have been a little more lenient and be like, okay, something's happening inside. And so I was just so obsessed with looking the part, looking like I weight lifted. So give yourself some, cut yourself some slack, give yourself some grace. Things are happening under the hood, and it's okay. You'll see that there are many other things that will come with weightlifting that it has nothing to do sometimes with your actual like muscles looking like you weightlift. Your hood, your cardiovascular health, just your joints, everything is good. Another thing that I wish I would have known that was pretty awesome later on I never really thought about my joints being stronger, or at least mobility being better. Like now I could sit on a squat for like more than 5 to 10 minutes for sure. That was from squatting a lot. I can probably be a little bit extra flexible when it comes to certain movements than my peers because of weightlifting. So that was pretty cool. That if somebody would have told me, hey, you're going to be more flexible, more mobile, that would have helped me even more to like be excited about training. Another thing that I wish I would have known is when you're really trying to get stronger in weightlifting, there's this balance between being really good at cardiovascular things like running and being really good at weightlifting. I believe that the normal person like myself, excluding super athletes, because they're out there. If you're one of them, amazing. I'm happy for you. But for an everyday person like myself, it's like a spectrum, and you have to decide where you want to be at. So I was so convinced that I could still go rucking, for example, put a backpack 75 pounds on my back, and then go lift heavy the next day, and that was a big no-no. And I kept doing it, and sometimes I would get a little extra fatigued and hurt, and I was like, yeah, this isn't. But I learned my lesson. If somebody would have told me, hey, you gotta choose it, you gotta be okay with that. I can totally walk. That's totally fine. If somebody would have told me, hey, you can still walk, that was much later in my weightlifting journey that I discovered, hey, I can still get my steps in, and that will help me with my total calories that I burn during the day. It's gonna help me to keep my my calories up. That's okay. I don't have to run. I don't have to get on the treadmill. I don't have to get on the Peloton. Me personally, right? I can still get stronger and still get my steps in and still be okay. Don't get me wrong. I can still sprint. Pretty good. I'll throw it in maybe once in a while for like a Saturday fit camp, and I can run pretty fast still. I just don't push myself to like, hey, I have to be a sprinter. And I have to be careful also about sprinting, because at the very beginning of my weightlifting, I guess my muscles started to grow a little faster than what they're used to. So the load's different. And I remember sprinting without any warm up, and I tore my calf muscle. Bummer. So that's another thing. You got to be careful at the beginning, because your body is going to change. Never in my life have I had this amount of muscle. I was not an athlete growing up. I was a bookworm. I was a cardio person, so I have not carried this amount of muscle any point in my life. So my body had to kind of get used to it. Like I've said, you have to wait for your ligaments and joints to